The Zanpakuto, wielded by the newly crowned captain commander of the Gote 13, Shunsui Kyoraku. Katen Kyokotsu is another double-bladed Zanpakuto. Even in its sealed state, the swords are separated. One special trait of Katen Kyokotsu is the Zanpakuto spirit's reluctance to fight with full power unless in the right mood, which unfortunately serves to handicap the user at times. Released with the command, the flowery winds become disturbed. The god of flowers sings. The heavenly winds become disturbed. The devil of heaven sneers. The blades are put together in the shape of a cross and flash, emerging as a pair of large black Chinese scimitars, heavily curved with silver edges. Even though the two swords are almost identical in Shikai, Kyoraku still uses them as a traditional Daisho pair, having one used for speed strikes and the other for power. Katen Kyokotsu's Shikai ability makes children games real. By trapping the opponent in playtime, the Zanpakuto creates rules that anyone within the wielder's spiritual pressure range is forced to abide by, including the user themselves. Some of the rules that we've seen have been the game of Kageyoni, the main rule being whoever gets their shadow stepped on loses. This allows the players to manipulate their shadows, to which Kyoraku uses to hide himself in other shadows or use his own shadow to attack and create clones of himself. Iruni is a color-based game where the players call out the color of wherever they intend to slash with their sword, unable to cut anything else. The more color you yourself have on your person, the more damage you'll do to the opponent. Inversely, the less color you have, the less harm will be brought, regardless of how critical an injury is made. The possibilities are truly endless with Katen Kyokotsu, and as seen in his battle with Stark, Kyoraku can even hide the rules of the game he has started from his opponent. Shown when he begins Takayoni with the Primera Espada, a game where the one with the higher ground wins, without disclosing the game's activation at all. This is why throughout the series, Kyoraku is seen doing so many different things and seems to have multiple different abilities. Without a knowledge of the base technique, it can be very confusing to pin down its actual ability. If anything, this is a benefit. Much more straightforward in its final release. Katen Kyokotsu's Bankai, Katen Kyokotsu Karamatsu Shinju, revolves around the linear presentation of a stage play, sinking the tip of the blades into the ground. Black tendrils begin to emerge and spread out from the user as a focal point. The complete manifestation of Katen Kyokotsu's spirit appears to join Kyoraku in this final desperation move. Upon activation, the atmosphere becomes melancholy, and a hint of despair lines the air. The Zanpakuto's depressing aura taints the perception of all those around, forcing victims to see the dark world for what it is as the first theater act begins. Ichidanme, Tamarai Kizu no Wakachai. Any wounds inflicted on either the wielder or the opponent are shared amongst them, making them bear each other's pain, compared to that of a man who suffers the same wounds as his lover, although not able to actually succumb to them as she does. Soon after, the second act, Nidanme, Zanki no Shitone, begins, as black spots ripple all over the opponent's body, causing deep harm, supposedly representing a continuation of the man's story, who falls ill due to the guilt of hurting his partner. Sandame Dangyo no Fuchi, the third act. Both the user and his opponent are swallowed by a torrent of water, tying them down to the bottom until their Ryatsu presence is drowned in the deep. Depicting the characters from the theater play, deep sea diving. If for some reason the opponent hasn't met their demise, the Bankai's final act begins. Shime no Dan, Itokiri Basami Chizome no Nodobu. After sheathing the Zanpakuto, a white thread is wound around the opponent's neck multiple times before being pulled taut, opening a wound that continually expands until it takes the head out in a flash, meant to be a last resort attack. Rather than a transformation, Katen Kyokotsu greatly outweighs plenty of Zanpakuto in complexity and enemy versatility. However, there are still some Zanpakuto that will just flat out ignore or negate its tactics. It's unknown if Katen Kyokotsu Karamatsu Shinju is capable of nullifying attacks that might be fast enough to incapacitate the user before the theater acts are complete, leaving it safer to speculate any Zanpakuto with abilities fast enough to remove Kyoraku from the equation would also be higher ranked.